Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining our webinar this afternoon. My name is Vuhlis Banyoni from Legal&Tax, and I'm joined by Nombali Keswa, who is a qualified and very experienced debt advisor here at Legal&Tax. I'd like to welcome Nombali and to thank you for joining me today.
Hello, Vuhlis. Thank you for having me today. Thank you so much.
Awesome. It's always a pleasure. So in today's webinar, we'll be showing you how to get financially fit and to achieve all of your money goals this year in order to maintain a debt-free life. I think 2022 is all about conquering your debt. We help you get over your January blues by showing you how to deal with your debt after the December holiday season. I'm sure that most of us have holes in our pockets at this point, but Legal&Tax is here to mend those holes. We'll also be sharing tips on how to tackle the back to school season. We know that all our bundles of joy made the return to school, as well as advising you on how to plan and to budget for financial success in 2022. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to type them in the chat box below. And then at the end of the segment, we'll then get Nombali to respond to your questions. If you would like further assistance and you'd like to have further conversations with Nombali, you are more than welcome to contact us. Our number is 0860 587 587. You can send through an email. That would be through info@legalandtax.co.za. And then we've also got a WhatsApp bot, which is the most simplest and easiest platform, honestly. So you can send us a WhatsApp, just simply type hi and send it to the following number. It's 071 526 8527. Okay, so let's get into it. Nombali, firstly, you know, we've just come out of the city season, and I know personally I was just chopping up that credit card and that debit card, you know, and now it's a new year. As I said, most parents have sent their bundles of joy to school, and you know, you met with now the task of planning ahead for the year, budgeting, you know, prioritizing how you spend your money. For anyone that is currently in a situation where they are struggling with debt, what can one do if they are drowning in debt at this point in time, so early on in the year?
Okay, so there's a number of options that are available to consumers that are credit active in South Africa. These options are also governed by our law, one of them being a debt consolidation or a debt consolidation loan. I didn't just want to say debt consolidation because a lot of people have misconceptions of what it actually entails. I've seen a lot of debt counselors also using this word, saying we're offering a debt consolidation option, but it's very important for clients to understand what we actually mean when we say debt consolidation. So they can mean that they basically combining your debt into one fixed installment, and then they distribute this money to your different credit providers. This is done via debt review. But there's also a debt consolidation loan, where you would have to go to a bank to apply for a loan, and then the bank settles your debt on your behalf, and then you are now having this one loan that you have to focus on. In most cases, this loan has a lower installment, so it's much easier for you to be able to manage your expenses at the end of the month, because now you don't have so much money that you're now paying over to your debt. So that's the debt consolidation option that I'm speaking about. Then there's debt mediation, where you would have to approach a mediator. They then negotiate with your credit providers to try and reduce the monthly installments. When this is done, you are then listed as a slow payer on the credit bureaus. Then there's another option, which is debt review or debt counseling, which is what Legal&Tax also offers, where we negotiate with your credit providers. So this is done through a debt counselor that is registered with the NCR, so we are regulated. Also, if you go under debt review, it's the more formal route that is available to people who are credit active in South Africa. Because this is regulated by the National Credit Act, it is safer to go for this option. Also, it goes via the courts. That is why we are calling it a formal debt restructuring process, because it goes via the courts, so the clients enjoy more protection while under debt review. If they are not happy with the service that they are being offered or receiving from the debt counselor, they are always able to report the debt counselor to the National Credit Regulator, who will then investigate the matter and give out a verdict. So this is the best option that a consumer can actually take up if they feel that they are overcommitted, over-indebted, and they really cannot manage at this point. Then they can approach a debt counselor, and we are happy to assist.
Okay. And now, looking at the year ahead and planning for 2022, how can one avoid starting the year off with more debt in addition to what they might already have?
Okay, so this requires a lot of planning. So if we start off the year without planning for the year, then we are bound to fail along the way. So we don't wait for the year to start before we start planning. We actually plan ahead, meaning we plan the year before. Another thing, we require discipline for us to do that, because if we are going to plan to do something, we must be disciplined enough to actually action what we have planned. So it requires a lot of planning, and we start the year before. So what we need to avoid is overspending during our holiday time. So because we are excited and we enjoying our time, it doesn't mean that we have to also overspend or have bad spending habits that will affect us at a later stage. So if we can avoid bad spending habits, we can avoid overspending and also using money that we haven't earned as yet. So what I mean by this is that, like you said, you're using your credit card, you're using your credit facilities during the holiday time. We're not saying don't use them at all. We're just saying use them wisely. Know how much you're spending on whatever it is that you're spending during holidays. But if you plan for these things, because we know every year a holiday is going to come, we know December is coming. So from January, there's people even in some neighborhoods who have stock files where they plan for December time in terms of your groceries and whatnot. So those are also things that we can try and assist us so that we are not starting the year off on a bad foot.
Okay. And I know that there are various methods or strategies that may be used to try and alleviate yourself of debt. One method of paying off your debt that I've heard about is the snowball effect. Can you please explain what this entails and how it can, help somebody if they want to kind of, cut down on their debt?
Okay, so the snowball effect, I'm not sure if everyone has heard of it, but if you haven't heard of the snowball effect, you probably have heard of a cascade or cascading plan. So in debt review terms, we call it a cascading plan because when we work off one debt and it's done, we then move over to the next one. So what the snowball effect entails exactly, it means that you are basically working your debt off one by one. You start with your smaller loans to get to the bigger ones and to work them off faster. So what they do is, if you've got maybe 5 credit agreements that you're currently paying, and the one with the smallest balance is maybe 2,000 Rand, for example. Once you've settled this small balance, you then move on to the next one with the bigger balance, which is probably 4,000 Rand, and then you move on to the next one. So you work them off one by one. Now, the strategy here is that once you've settled the smaller loan, you don't take the money back into your pocket. So you've been paying this installment probably of maybe 100 Rand or 200 Rand on this credit agreement that you owe 2,000 Rand on. This 200 Rand can make a whole lot of difference if you move it over to the next credit agreement to work it off faster. Now, the faster you pay, the less the interest, the less the fees, the less the insurance premiums that you would have to take out for that credit agreement. So that's basically what the snowball effect entails, that you work off your debt one by one, and it's actually proven to be very effective for most consumers who've tried this method.
Okay, great stuff. And obviously, we offer debt review here at Legal&Tax. But what would you like our members to know about in terms of how else our debt assist benefit can assist them?
Okay, so we started off with debt review, and we were mainly doing debt counseling for our clients. And then as the years went by, we realized that our clients were crying for help. They wanted more help. They were struggling even outside of debt review. They were struggling with not understanding the services that they're signing up for, and they didn't really understand their rights when it comes to credit agreements. So executives sat down and they decided to expand our portfolio in terms of offering more services that are debt related and offer more assistance to our clients instead of just helping them with debt review. So we have been helping with debt counseling, but also we've been picking up a lot of accounts that have prescribed for our clients, and we've been assisting them with getting those prescription letters and getting those prescribed accounts removed. So we are able also to raise the defense of prescription on behalf of our clients. We are also able to give out credit reports to clients who want to see what's happening exactly on their credit profile. We also offer education in terms of debt. So before you sign up for a credit agreement, you're welcome to speak to us. Before you even sign that agreement, the bank can give you the contract for us to read through it. So just so as to ensure that we are proactive and we make sure that our clients understand what they're signing up for before they actually sign up. So we also have advisory services where it's just mainly debt solution services that we are offering to our clients. There's financial coaching that we are doing. We're also doing this with more of our corporate clients where we visit their company sites, we hold webinars, we have talks, and we also call them just to find out how are they managing financially and how we can best assist. So what I'm thinking right now is that most clients feel that they are over indebted, and some clients feel that they are trapped and they really can't get help. There is help. If they can please contact us, then we are able to assist. Anytime when you feel that you are over indebted or you feel that you can do better with the little that you have, then you can always contact us. We offer debt solutions in all aspects, if not every aspect, but we offer them in most aspects. So if we can help you, whatever the problem is, contact us, because we've also seen that a lot of clients have different matters that they have to deal with. So we don't have one way of dealing with things. We look at your problem, we try and find a solution, and if we can help you, we will definitely do it.
Okay, great stuff. And can you share some other budgeting and debt management tips or strategies, to help our members to proactively deal with debt in 2022?
Okay. So we've spoken about budgeting in our previous webinars that we've been holding. And if people were not there on those ones, I just want to throw a quick reminder to say it's important for us to budget effectively. What we are saying when we are saying that you are budgeting effectively, we are saying that be realistic when you're setting down you're writing down your budget. And we are asking people to also document each and every cent that they spend so that they're able to see how much they are using on their spending. Also, we've come up with a method to say, try and sort of categorize your budget in terms of essential expenses and non-essential expenses. Draft them down so that you have a clear understanding of what it is that you're actually spending for. We said that savings must form part of your budget. So it shouldn't come at the end of your budget. Before you start budgeting, your savings should be number one on the list. Why we are saying this is that we want you to create a contingency plan so that every time there's an emergency, you have something to fall back on. So it's not the same as every time you have an emergency, you knock on the credit provider's door, because at some point you won't be able to knock at their door because you're probably over indebted or you don't qualify for the loan at the time. So having that contingency plan gives you that peace of mind, knowing that there's something to fall back on should any emergency arrive. We're living in times that are very unpredictable. Anything can happen at any time. So we can never prepare more than enough. We need to always try and limit our spending and spend what we really, really need. Also with school fees and whatnot, let's try and pay those things up front so that at the end of the year, we don't have a problem where we have to pay now the full amount.
Well, that's amazing advice, Nambali. I like the fact that, you kind of reversed things, whereas people will always focus on like the expenses and what they need versus savings. So I like the fact that you've reversed it and, urging our clients to start with the savings because that is your umbrella for a rainy day, to alleviate you having to, approach the banks and request for loans and that kind of thing. So great advice. Thank you so much, Nambali. And now you mentioned, school fees and, we've just ushered our kids off to school. I know obviously the prepping starts a little bit earlier because I know we've, only had them back at school for about 2 weeks or so. When should parents really start prepping for sending their kids back to school?
Okay, so again, we look at our planning. So prepping really starts immediately when the school closes and you get your child's report, and along with the report, most schools will send through the stationery list. Right. So the year before, you already know that you're going to have to spend for your stationery or for your school supplies. So you need to make sure that during your December spending, I've also noticed that prices are much lower than they are during back to school time. That's the time that you want to maybe make sure that you buy all the supplies that your child will need for the year. So prepping starts the year before because even the schools are proactive in this instance. They give you this list when the schools close. If they don't give you as a parent, you are also welcome to ask because in most cases, they already know what they'll need for the year.
Okay. So with you receiving the stationery list in December, as a parent, am I legally obligated to buy everything that's listed there?
Okay, so if we're going to speak in legal terms, then I would say yes. The reason why I'm saying this is that you want to make sure that your child has everything they need. They are properly equipped for them to exercise their right to education. So your child has the right to education, and as a parent or a guardian of your child, you have that obligation for your child to make sure that they are taken care of in terms of their schooling. But there's also this sense of we're all human. So at the end of the day, the people that you are dealing with at school, whether it's the principals, the teachers at school, these are all people that understand that our pockets are not the same. So our situations that we face are not the same. And as much as there's a legal obligation on a parent to make sure that the child is taken care of, the parent may at times not be able to meet these obligations. So schools have measures in place to assist consumers or to assist our clients to make sure that parents don't suffer alone. If there's things that they don't really have to buy and the school can provide, they do provide such. And if the parent is explaining to the school to say, I really can't afford, this is my situation. These people, they understand because they're also human and they understand that we don't all have the same amount of money. We don't all have the same responsibilities at the end of the month. And they try and assist. And in most cases, they do. Check with school fees. If a parent is unable to pay school fees, for example, they're able to apply for school fees exemption at school. So these measures are there in place because they've seen that parents are not really managing. Even with the pandemic, it hit hard and most parents lost their jobs. Schools have measures in place to assist in this regard. So legally, yes, they are obliged to make sure that the child is taken care of, but if they can't, there are options that they can explore that will help ensure that the child has received everything they need.
Awesome. I trust that some parents aren't even aware of the fact that they can apply for an exemption. So I'm great that you put it. I'm happy that you put it out there, you know, so people know that they have that the resources, you know. And then, can you share some back to school money saving tips or any sort of advice on how to budget in order to spend wisely on your child's school fees, on their stationery, as well as any other school supplies?
Okay. So what I've noticed is that during the year, school supplies are actually much cheaper than they are during the back to school season. So there's also specials that are advertised, but parents don't buy during that time because they've already bought supplies for the year and they're fine. But we know that the child is probably going to be progressing to the next grade. And for the parent to go to school and say, listen, I know my child is going to the next grade next year, and there's some supplies that I can actually buy now because I've got some cash, or there's a special at the store. Can you not give me the list for the next grade so that I can at least buy those supplies that I know that they'll need in any case? You understand? So those are things that parents can do to budget effectively for school fees and school time. Also, we mentioned about school fees as to paying the school fees maybe much earlier than later, because during festive, we already have expenses because we want to spend for the holidays. So if we can pay our school fees monthly, make a target to say by September, I want to be finished with paying my school fees, and you work out a budget for the year. You know that from September, you're starting to save for your festive season and what you might need. We've seen that there's a lot of sales that stores have during the year rather than during the time when it's in demand. So we also advise that people do that so that they're able to budget more effectively. Also ask for the stationery list in advance so that you're able to buy these things and you know that everything is sorted. I mean, stationery doesn't expire, so you can have it even for the next year or two. As long as you know that your child is taken care of, then you should be fine.
Okay. So Nambali, we do have a few questions from our audience. I have a question here. What happens when your creditors demand direct payment from you, whereas your payments are made through a debt counseling agency?
All right. So this is dependent on the stage of debt review where you are as a consumer. So it's very common at the initial stages of debt review, while the debt counselor is still negotiating with the credit providers, that credit providers would still call you because it takes some time for them to update their systems, and they have to accept the proposal before it actually goes away from those specific departments. So sometimes it's just an SMS that is system generated because the system can see that no payment came through for the month. Because on the first month, you normally pay your debt counseling fees, the credit providers don't receive payment on the first month. Then on the second month, if the file is going to court, then there's legal fees that they would have to pay. So credit providers normally receive payment on the third month. So during this first 3 months, very common that they would call and say, listen, you haven't paid this month, what's happening? That's probably because the systems are not updated as yet to show that you are under debt review. Immediately when you get a call like that from the credit provider, just advise them that, listen, I'm under debt review. This is my debt counselor. Whatever information that you need, you can get it directly from the debt counselor. They'll be able to assist you with whatever that it is that you need. But then there's times when credit providers are calling you, you are under debt review, but it's much later on the stages of debt review. If it's during that time, it is concerning. The consumer would have to speak to the debt counselor to get to the bottom of it. Because sometimes you will find that either the consumer has missed a payment and the credit provider did not receive payment for that month. If that's the case, they might be in the process of terminating the debt review. So if the consumer advises the debt counselor, then they are able to speak to the credit provider and advise if there was a change in circumstance, then they can explain that, listen, there was a change in circumstance, they couldn't pay for this month, but going forward, they'll be paying this amount. So there's an official document, it's a 17.3 that will be sent out by the debt counselor to the credit providers. Then there's another instance that the consumer has been paying according to what the debt counselor is saying that they should pay, but the credit provider has not accepted the proposal. If they haven't accepted the proposal that we sent out, they normally come back with the counter offer. If they come back with the counter offer and the debt counselor is unable to meet that offer, and the consumer as well is also unable to meet that offer, then the file goes to court for the courts to decide. So during that period, you might find that the consumer is now receiving calls from credit providers asking for payment because there's no agreement in place. But when the court order is granted, then they stop calling the consumer. So there's a number of reasons why they call. Most cases, there's something that's happening that they just need enlightenment on to understand what is happening with your financial situation. In most cases, it's just an email or phone call away and it can be resolved. But in very rare instances, you will find that the debt counselor has sent out a proposal, but the system is not paying according to the proposal that was sent out. Like I said, when we spoke about the snowball effect, there's a cascading plan as debt counselors that we set in place. So if the credit provider has received a cascading plan that says after 10 months of debt review, they will start receiving more because one credit provider would have been settled. Immediately when the payment hits and they haven't received more, then they start calling. And it's a simple thing of just going back onto the system and adjusting the payment just to make sure that the payments cascade according to the plan. But in those cases, we are able to resolve it with the credit providers because they understand that it's maybe a system glitch that has caused the problem. So I would advise that our client should just call us and just find out so we can at least ask some questions and just understand the situation so that we can give them a clear answer of where they're standing at the moment.
Okay. Another question here from Leah. I'm also interested in knowing what percentage I'll be charged by anyone who helps. Example, the counselor, the bank, Legal&Tax, etc.
Okay. So with Legal&Tax, our files are referred to a sister company, INDC. They do the administration of debt counseling for us. So if you're a member of Legal&Tax, we do the initial stages for free. That is the consultation phase. You do not pay for a consultation. We consult with you telephonically or even directly. We do an assessment for free. It's part of your policy. You benefit from that. Once the assessment is done and we find that you are over indebted, then we would advise you if you want to proceed with the debt review, then your file is referred to a sister company, INDC. We've been working with them for the past 5 years. And they're also a very reputable company. We've never had problems with them. So we're very excited to be working with them. In terms of the fee structure, it's normally stated on the Form 16. So there's no certain percentage that we would say that you are paying towards legal fees and the restructuring fee. The restructuring fee is your first month's installment up to a maximum of 9,000 Rand. But with the legal fees, that we cannot say because it's dependent on the attorneys. They charge as per the file that has to go to court and whatever it is that they have to spend on for your court order to be granted. If it goes via the tribunal, then it's much cheaper. But in that case, we would have to get acceptances from all the credit providers for us to proceed via the tribunal. So that's the main reason why we do it via the courts, because if the consumer has 10 accounts and we've received acceptance letters from 5 or 6, we still need 4 acceptances for us to go to tribunal. So all of the credit providers must have accepted the agreement. So if they don't accept, then we go via the courts, who will then issue a court order for the debt review application.
Okay. And then final question from Farana. Is it true that if a debt is not paid, example, a credit card, it is, well, after 3 years, that debt is written off? If this is the case, what happens to one's credit record?
Okay, so you're saying after 3 years, the debt is written off because you haven't paid the credit agreement or there's no contact with the credit provider. In this case, we're speaking about prescription of debt. So if it's more than 3 years, no communication, more than 3 years, there's no payment that's going through to the credit provider, then by law, that debt has prescribed in terms of the Prescription Act. But in most cases, these accounts we can still pick up on the credit report. So if you suspect that there's an account that has prescribed, you can contact us so we can determine if at all you can raise the defense of prescription as the consumer. And if you can, we are also happy to assist with that. But what we basically do, we request, we raise the defense of prescription. We wait for the credit provider to respond to our request, either by defending themselves and saying, yes, the debt has prescribed, and issuing a letter that says the debt has prescribed. If it has not prescribed, they then provide proof to that effect to say why it hasn't prescribed for us to investigate if in fact the debt has prescribed or not. So in those cases, we are able to remove those accounts from the debt, from the credit bureaus, but we'd have to get that prescription letter from the credit provider and then lodge a dispute with the credit bureaus for them to get the account removed.
Okay, awesome. I have some positive feedback for you, Nombali, from Andrew. You responded to his question, the first question you took, and he said, thank you for answering my question comprehensively with a smiley face.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much. We're glad to hear from you.
Nombali, thank you so much for joining me. It's always a pleasure. Very enlightening, very informative session. I'd also like to thank all of our guests for joining us this afternoon. This is a monthly segment, usually every last Thursday of the month, and the topics range from legal to debt to tax, health topics even. So just, keep your eyes on our social media pages. Keep your eyes open for any invitations that we send out to you, inviting you to these webinars. It's nice to engage with you, and also I think it's a nice opportunity for you to learn more about your rights, to learn more about how to better manage your money. You never stop learning. And we're here to help, and to offer those resources in order to make things a little bit easier for you. So if you need to chat to us further, as I said, you are more than welcome to call us. You can contact us on 0860 587 587. Our WhatsApp line is 071 526 8527, or you can send us an email on info@legalandtax.co.za. From me, Bushes Banyoni, and my colleague Nombali, I'd like to thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and stay blessed. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Nombali.
Thank you, Bushes. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.